Hey guys, and welcome back to the New Tennis Era podcast. My name's Anthony Hirsch. Today I'm going to be predicting the Australian Open men's singles draw for the 2025 edition of the event. I'm going to be going over dark horses. I'm going to be going over best potential matches of every single quarter. And ultimately, I'm going to be giving a best storyline of the quarter and predicting who's going to get out of each of the 4 quarters of the draw, including what that quarterfinal is going to be, how many sets it's going to be, then predicting the semifinals, and then predicting who will be the champion of the 2025 men's singles tournament. I like the preview shows. These are fun. The prediction videos are some of my favorites to do just because it's a lot of fun just to put my 2 cents out there, analyze kind of what we can expect coming in, players' results recently and stuff like that, and just ultimately giving shot in the dark predictions. I'm excited. So definitely don't forget to subscribe to Quality Shot Tennis. If you are new, check out the other New Tennis Era podcasts and all the other stuff that I've been up to. Once again, Anthony Hirsch here with the New Tennis Era podcast, and please don't forget to like the video as well. Let's get into it. Quarter number uno. Quarter 1. Seeds: Jannik Sinner, Caboli, Hurkacz, Rune, Tsitsipas, Karen Khachanov, Cerundolo, and Alex de Minaur. So the storyline of the quarter is that's a good draw for Sinner as he tries to defend a major for the first time, and I do think it's a good draw for Sinner. He has a tough first round, in my opinion, in Nicolas Jarry. He's a bit of a giant killer, Jarry. I don't think in general that should be a tough matchup, though. And Sinner has won the last 26 sets that he has played. So let's just put that out there. Sinner has won the last 26 sets that he has played. In fact, if he gets to the final without losing a set and wins the first set of the final, I know this sounds a bit confusing, but just stick with me, trust me. If he gets to the final without losing a set and wins the first set of the final, he will have the record, Open Era record, #1 for most consecutive sets won, period. He will have the record if that is to be the case. If he gets to the final, he will have already tied the record without dropping a set. If he gets to the final without dropping a set. So I just want to put that out there. Sinner's not been losing a lot of sets. I think he should be happy with his draw. Rune has not been in his best form recently. Hurkacz could be interesting. Caboli is very good. Sinner's not lost to a fellow Italian yet. I will put that out there. But Caboli is very good. On the other side, he's got Tsitsipas and de Minaur, players that he has played well against recently. Cerundolo, Karen Khachanov, I don't know. We'll get into it. Matches of the quarter. I've got Hurkacz versus Griekspoor, round 1. I just think it's a good match. Griekspoor had some great wins last year here. Some incredible comebacks and big victories, even though he didn't have a deep run necessarily, but some good matches. Wins in 5 sets, and Hurkacz is a good player. Sinner versus Jarry, round 1. Once again, Jarry a bit of a giant killer. So he shows up for the big matches, but I do reckon Sinner will get through. Sinner versus Caboli, round 3. So for my previews, I don't just do round 1 popcorn, I do general potential popcorn for the quarter, because I think it makes the most sense. Not all of these matches will happen, but I think it's the most interesting way to do a preview. Sinner versus Caboli, round 3. Caboli is so fun to watch. He's an explosive, flashy player, and I think it would be a lot of fun to see that. Sinner versus Hurkacz, round 4. De Minaur versus Tsitsipas, round 4. Tsitsipas is 11-1 against de Minaur, but Alex has won their second to last meeting and their last meeting on hard courts. It should be interesting. I think Tsitsipas has loved this event in the past, even though last year he lost to a incredibly high-level Taylor Fritz. That match in Australia is still one of the best matches I've seen Fritz play. Definitely set the tone for his 2024 season, Taylor. And it was definitely the best I'd seen him play to that point. No doubt about it. Beat Tsitsipas in 4 sets. But Tsitsipas, shan't we forget, is a great player in Australia. I think he reached like 3 consecutive semifinals here, something like that. I'm not going to look into it. He's been good in Australia, is the point. He does have a tough first round against Mickelson as well. That wouldn't be the most surprising upset alert, in my opinion, for me. Also, Karen Khachanov in the 3rd round would be a rematch of a semifinal they had a couple of years ago when Tsitsipas reached the final here. Dark horses. Oh, if we get de Minaur versus Tsitsipas, well, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Dark horses. Berrettini is a dark horse I have here, talking about first round for Berrettini. I'll speed through this a little bit more, but Berrettini is a dark horse, and he's got Cameron Norrie in the first round. Norrie's been not that great recently, let's be honest. And then he's got Zhang or Runa in the next round. Zhang is also a dark horse for me. I think that Zhang is tough. He just took a set off Zverev in United Cup, and he's a very good player. He's a very good player. Zverev does have a little bit of an injury, so there are some things that could come into play, but anyway, I think that Zhang is a great player and he shouldn't be underestimated, so I want to put him as a dark horse. And yeah, Hatchnoff, like I said, reached semifinals here a few years ago. Berrettini is always tough at slams. Way better at slams than he is at other tournaments for some reason. Quarterfinal, okay, let me say what the quarterfinal is and then I'll give my thoughts as to why. So quarterfinal, in 3, 2, 1, I have Jannik Sinner defeats Stefanos Tsitsipas in 3 sets. Sinner beats Tsitsipas in 3 sets. Firstly, like I said, I don't really think Sinner's going to be that tested by anybody here. Hurkacz could give him a bit of a test if he gets to the 4th round, because Hurkacz has beaten Sinner on 2 different occasions. Obviously, that Miami final in 2021, even though Sinner was not himself at all at that point. But even in Halle last year, they had a very close match, even though it was 2 sets. I don't know. I think Hurkacz could test him, but and Hurkacz played really well here last year, that epic against Medvedev last year. That was so exciting to watch. But I have Sinner beating Steph in 3 sets. First, I had de Minaur coming through. Like, I finished writing up this whole quarter of how I was predicting, and I had de Minaur. And then I was thinking, do I really feel like he's going to like these Australian Open quick courts more than Tsitsipas? I mean, like, he did just fix his 10-0 head-to-head against Tsitsipas to 10-1. Which is now 11-1. But Steph likes these courts. I don't really love de Minaur at slams yet. Acapulco, where de Minaur beats Steph, is one of the slowest hard courts around. This is not a slow hard court. So the reason I had de Minaur at first is because he's in amazing form and Steph is really not. He was taken to 3 sets by Carreno Busta at United Cup and lost in straight sets to Shevchenko, 7-0 tiebreaker to lose it. So those were kind of my thoughts, but ultimately I had Tsitsipas. 11-1 is a really strong record, and I think Tsitsipas will be particularly determined after that loss last year to really show what he's made of in Australia and get back to a quarterfinal. But ultimately, Sinner is so strong right now, and I have Sinner in 3 sets. One of the sets might be close, maybe not fully dissimilar from Alcaraz beating Steph at the Roland Garros, I think last year. Also this year, in straight sets. Both were 3 sets, but kind of close. I think that it could be something like that, but I have Sinner over Steph in 3 sets. Sinner to the semis. Quarter number 2. Fritz and Pecci Pericard, Shelton, Musetti are the seeds in the top half of the quarter, and then we've got Rublev, Tiafoe, Popyrin, and Daniil Medvedev. No one's talking about Medvedev. Can I point that out? No one. He's not. I almost wanted to put him in dark horses. He's Mans is 5 in the world, right? Mans is 5 in the world, and he reached the final here last year. He was up 2 sets to love in the final here last year. In fact, he's been a 3-time finalist at this tournament in the past. And another point, 2 of the last 3 years, he's been up 2 sets to love in the final and lost to Sinner and Nadal. He's lost to Sinner and Nadal. I know what you people could say whatever they want about Rafa. Those are 2 of the best Rafa and how he's particularly good on clay, he is. But those are 2 of the best players of the last year. There's also 2 of the best hardcore players of the last whatever years. That's a tough, those are tough players to play. And Rafa obviously had that incredible comeback, and so did Sinner, to win his first major, a la Ivan Lendl. So I think that Medvedev is going under the radar. I'm not even necessarily saying Medvedev's going to do well. I'm just saying the fact that no one is talking about him is kind of crazy. I know he didn't end off last year in a good place at all, but he's a factor in Australia. And he's a factor in Australia. When you least expect Medvedev to do well, that's when he does well. And when you come into a hard court slam, he's always a factor. That's my, how do I put it? That's my kind of, not motto, but that's just what I say. Whenever we get into a hard court slam, I'm looking at Daniil Medvedev. He's always causing chaos. Even at Wimbledon last year, not even hard court, people weren't expecting him to do much against Sinner, and then he pulled off that incredible performance. Sinner wasn't at his best, but Medvedev played amazing, so don't count out Medvedev. Storyline of the quarter, crazy section, this one. As the draw was being filled out, I thought that this section was crazy. Lots of interesting players and matches. First round, blockbuster central. This is why I say that. First round, blockbuster central. Arnaldi versus Lorenzo Musetti, round 1 is a matchup. Two of the most quickest players around, two of the best movers, and two of the most fun to watch. Monfils and Pecci Pericard, round 1. Rublev Fonseca, round 1. Wawrinka Sonego, round 1, which is just going to be a really good match, let's be honest, because Wawrinka has won this tournament before, but he's, 39 years old now, I think? And Sonego's a great player. He just had a few good wins at United Cup, too, I believe. Fritz Shelton, round 4, Rublev Tiafoe, round 3, and Fritz Medvedev quarterfinal round off a long list of best matches of the quarter. I just think it's an exciting quarter. Rublev Tiafoe has proven to be a matchup that can go either way at slams if Rublev gets there, because Fonseca versus Rublev, I think, is the greatest round 1 match on paper. Fonseca was playing out of his mind in Next Gen Finals. People are excited about him for a reason. Man is an incredible athlete, and he's a young star coming up quick, hitting huge shots off both wings, but that forehand is a weapon. Very exciting player. Such explosive power and great movement. Just great. Reminds me of Sinner in a lot of ways. Since he's come up, a lot of people point that out. But he's like a mix of it's like Sinner and Alcaraz took things from the big 3. It's like Fonseca has taken things from the big 3 plus Sinner and Alcaraz already. Like, this next group is going to be just next level. That's how the tennis wheel keeps turning. Dark horses, I go with Matteo Arnaldi and Pecci Pericard and Fonseca. A lot of people are looking at Pecci Pericard to really cause chaos here. I'm not... Until I see him perform at a slam like that, I'm not going to pick him to do that. I don't think he's this unstoppable force, to be honest, yet. I think he's great. I think his serve is phenomenal. When I see it, I'll believe it. I'm not expecting a deep slam run from Pecci Pericard. That being said, have to mention him. But yeah, it's a very tough first round against Monfils, who got to the final this week, I should say, in Auckland. Matteo Arnaldi is just a great player, and he's had a pretty decent start to the year. Fonseca is an obvious dark horse for a reason. Just like in Pecci Pericard, I'm not really expecting Fonseca to maybe, have a semifinal or final run, but anything's possible. Anything's possible, even if I'm not expecting it. Quarterfinal in 3, 2, 1 of the Fritz Medvedev Shelton section. 3, 2, 1. Fritz defeats Medvedev in 4 sets. I've got Taylor getting through to the semifinals. I know I had that big spiel about Medvedev, but Fritz is arguably the second most consistent player on hard courts at the moment. He is so good. He's really become so much more complete. His movement is phenomenal. He was clutch at United Cup. He's been clutch. He's the guy to beat right now, and I will mention he had an awesome Australian Open last year. Like I said, that match against Tsitsipas, 4-hour match against Djokovic, where he saved 15 of his first 15 break points of the match. That is crazy stuff. He was on a tear at the Australian Open last year, so I would not count out Fritz. I have him over Medvedev, who he beat pretty easily, I would say, honestly, in Turin. I think 6-4, 6-3 in the round robin when Medvedev really had that breakdown. So I have Fritz getting through. Going on to quarter number 3. Once again, please don't forget to subscribe, Quality Shot Tennis. And please don't forget to like the video and check out all the other new Tennis Era podcasts, all that stuff. Quarter 3, seeds. Djokovic, Mahac, Lehechka, Dimitrov, Jack Draper, the Brit Jack Draper, Korda, Thompson, and Alcaraz. Story of the quarter. Novak Djokovic trying to win his 11th Australian Open title. The GOAT. Alcaraz, young GOAT, trying to win his first. Become the youngest player to clear the calendar slam. All comes down to this quarter. Matches of the quarter. Man, I put a long list here. Let me just Let me just name a couple of these, because I'm not going to name every match that I've put here, but I'm going to say some great potential matches. Djokovic versus Opelka round 3. I put Mahac in parentheses because that depends on Mahac is the seed that's supposed to get there. If I put in parentheses, that means person in parentheses is the seed that's supposed to get to that point. Djokovic versus Mahac round 3 is a good one. Fognini versus Dimitrov round 1. Two of the most talented, fun players to watch on tour. Dimitrov versus Djokovic round 4 I think could be quite good as well. And I'd also mention Draper versus Alcaraz round 4 and Alcaraz versus Djokovic quarterfinals. Those would be fantastic, fantastic matches. So, but there's so many. I could have named like 20 potential great matches from this quarter. So quarter 2 and 3 in the middle of the draw, these have potential for absolute fireworks. Particularly quarter 2 I'm looking at, just even round 1 just has fireworks, but there's some matches round 3 to quarterfinals that can be pretty fantastic in quarter number 3, the Djokovic Alcaraz quarter. So let me just say that. Dark horses, I've got Korda, Draper, and Opelka. Yeah, another great match that's potentially could happen is Korda versus Draper. I think that John Wertheim picked Korda to beat Alcaraz. And I've seen people saying that Draper can beat Alcaraz. I'm going to be honest, all respect to John Wertheim and all respect to people picking those results, but Alcaraz is a generational, consistent player at slams. I know it's the whole thing if he lost to Botic van de Zandschulp, but let's just brush that aside for a second, right? Like, it's just what it is. Alcaraz, at 21 years old, still a lot to go in his being 21 years old. He's like 21 and a half. Listen, Alcaraz has won 3 out of the 4 majors at 21 years old, and on 3 different surfaces, and he almost never loses before the semifinals of a slam. Last year in Australia, lost in the quarterfinals to incredibly high-level Sasha Zverev, who arguably should have made it to the final. He was 2 points away from beating Medvedev, and was serving in the tiebreaker in the 4th set. But Zverev was playing incredibly well. But Alcaraz, otherwise, I mean, he's just so consistent at majors. Obviously winning the Channel Slam last year, US Open semifinal, lost to a god-tier Medvedev, won Wimbledon. What else? Roland Garros, played an incredible match against Djokovic, just started cramping. Alcaraz is generational, and then won the US Open before that. Alcaraz at slams is generational, okay? He just doesn't... That Botic van de Zandschulp loss was an absolute freaking outlier. So much so. So much so, Alcaraz has basically never lost a 5-set match. The only 5-set match he's ever lost was when he was trying to come back from 2 sets to love against Berrettini when he was like 17 or 18 years old. So, I'm just saying, people are counting out Alcaraz way too quickly, and that's going to really paint my draw. I'm just going to say that, because I have faith in Alcaraz. Yeah, maybe he won't like the court speed here as much as he will at some other tournaments. I don't see Korda beating him. Draper, I've long thought is going to be a tough opponent for Alcaraz, but Alcaraz is going to come in here with something to prove. I tell you what, Alcaraz is going to come in here with something to prove. Don't know if you guys saw that ATP Tour post where they're like, you're not number 1 in the world, you're number 1 for now. And then they had a picture of Alcaraz. It's stuff like that, and stuff like people counting out Alcaraz on hard courts, you know, and counting him out at slams after that Botic loss and stuff like that, where that's when Alcaraz is going to say, hey, I'm the guy. Alcaraz during the clay season was struggling, and then what did he do? He won Roland Garros and Wimbledon. People are saying Sinner is the guy, and then he beat Sinner in Beijing. Like, there are these things. Alcaraz has a certain mentality. He is not going to take a liking to people saying stuff like this. It is what it is. Just is what it is. So we'll see what happens, but I would not count out Alcaraz at all, and I'm going to give my quarterfinal prediction in 3, 2, 1. I have Alcaraz defeating Tomas Mahac in the quarterfinal in 4 sets. Probably my biggest pick of the whole draw. Yes, if you are following, that does mean that I am predicting a Tomas Mahac run here to the quarters with an upset over Novak in the 3rd round. Mahac has been playing at an extremely high level. I remember how well he was playing here in Australia last year. where he beat Tiafoe in straight sets. Mahac has been very impressive to me. Djokovic had that loss to Opelka in the lead-up tournament. Australian Open is his domain, but, you know, he didn't perform as well as he thought he was going to last year, although he did lose to Jannik, of course. But I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like Novak's currently trying stuff out, and which is good. It could benefit him very much so, but it really has to do with the fact that Novak's just lost to Alexei Popyrin in, the third round of the U.S. Open. I think that kind of inconsistency may kind of, you know, hold hands with his age at the moment. I still think that he is a big contender at the Australian Open. I think he's a contender for tournaments. But I think Mahac is too good, and, you know, I just have to go. When I saw that Mahac could play Djokovic in the third round, by the way, Opelka could also play him in the third round. But when I saw Mahac could play Djokovic in the third round, I just kind of had a feeling that with this tough draw that Djokovic has ahead of him, he's going to struggle, I think. I don't think he's this unstoppable force that he was back in 2012. I'll just say that. I could be wrong. That's why we do these predictions. But that's how I felt. And I go with Alcaraz over Mahac in 4 sets. Mahac beat Alcaraz in straight sets in Shanghai. I think that could be a very tough match, but if I'm right that Mahac beats Djokovic and then wins his next round as well, potentially against Dimitrov, for example, it's going to be very tough to beat Alcaraz as well. Crazier things have probably happened, but I'm not going to predict that. I've already predicted crazy enough. Let's just be honest. Quarter number 4. So far we've got Alcaraz, Fritz, and Sinner. In terms of names, those are the top 3 names. We'll see if that trend continues. Seeds: Casper Ruud, FAA, Tabilo, Paul, Humbert, Fils, Baez, and Zverev. 3 of the top 4 names, I should say. Zverev is the 2nd seed in the tournament. Storyline of the quarter: interesting dark horses versus Zverev, who got 2 points from reaching the final last year, just like I pointed out. I really think there are interesting dark horses, so I'm going to go straight to dark horses, which are, for me, I go with Mensik, Shang, Felix Auger-Aliassime, who's having a great week this week, and he's done some good things in Australia in the past, such as get very close to beating Medvedev match point in 2 sets to love up in that epic match a few years ago. Tommy Paul, Humbert, Nishikori, Fils. Tommy Paul, if you even can count him as a dark horse, Hugo Humbert as well. But there's a lot of interesting names here, honestly. So it'll be really interesting how Zverev fares up against the pack. I just think this is a really interesting draw. I think it's an interesting tournament. The storylines are great. I usually have positive things to say about tournaments, not always, but I usually do, where I'm like, wow, this is going to be so fun. But I feel like this is a good one, and I feel like it's coming at an interesting time for Alcaraz, for Djokovic. The only thing that kind of makes it maybe a little bit, you know, boring adjacent, or kind of feel a little bit like there might be some aspects to it that are boring or a little bit less interesting, are the fact that Sinner is such a big favorite to win, at least in my opinion. Some people will say still Djokovic, some people will say Alcaraz. Sinner is not big. In my opinion, Sinner is a very big favorite to win. That's not to say he'll definitely win. That's not even to say that he has that's not to say that he has an over 90% chance of winning. There are other great players in this tournament who absolutely can win, but I think Sinner's a pretty decent favorite at this point, just because of how he ended last year. If you were to pick a favorite, for me, you pick Sinner. But I think that it'll be interesting to see how Zverev fares. Like I said, I think he should have reached the final last year. He ended off the season very strong last year in Paris, winning the Paris tournament. I think he likes these courts. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how Zverev does against a lot of good names. Matches of the quarter, there's some interesting ones here. Ruud versus Mensik, round 2. I'm just going to go on the record. I think this could be one of the matches of the tournament. I just have a good feeling about it. Casper's underrated. He had a couple of great wins in the United Cup to start off the year. He's just always underrated. Even last year, he ended off the year strong on hard courts. And Jakub Mensik is that guy right now. He's coming up quick. People are looking at Fonseca. I'm looking at Mensik as well. No doubt about it. I might be looking at Mensik even more right now. I'm looking at both. But Mensik is very strong, so I would not count out Mensik. Impossible to say who's going to be the better of those two because they're so young, but I would not keep my eye off of Mensik. Shang FAA round 2 is another very good one. Ruud FAA round 3 is a very good one. They've had some interesting matches in the past that have gone pretty one-sided, I think, in either direction. Paul versus Rude, round 4 is quite good. They have had some good matches at slams. They had that 5-setter at the US Open a few years ago. And also Zverev versus Feast, round 4. I'll just say this. I feel confident in Zverev to beat most of these players. That's not to say he'll definitely beat these players, but I feel pretty confident if I was betting, I would pick Zverev over most of them. The one thing I will say, Humbert is supposed to get to this point in round 4. That's why he's in parentheses as well. And if he does, I don't think he's going to beat Zverev. Zverev annihilated him in the Paris final last year. It was complete annihilation. The scoreline was arguably closer than the match felt like. It was annihilation. But I will say this. If anybody is going to, I feel pretty confident that Feast has a pretty decent shot at least at having a good attempt at doing so in the 4th round, if he can get to that point and beat Humbert in the 3rd round, I believe. Because he had 2 very close matches against Zverev last year, had 2 epics versus him late last year. One he won, I believe in a 3rd set breaker, with a lot of drama there, so that could be a lot of fun if we see it. And also, he pushed him to 3 sets in Paris when Zverev was really playing incredible tennis. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Humbert has a winning record against Feast, but and I think he would be quite determined to beat Feast after Feast had that comeback against him to beat him in Tokyo from down match point. So I kind of reckon Hugo might get there, but if Feast gets there, it could be a really interesting match. Also, I will mention Tommy Paul is 2-0 over Zverev, but those 2 matches were on the 2 slowest hard courts on tour, basically, in Acapulco and Indian Wells, 2 of the slowest. So that is why my prediction in 3-2-1, quarterfinal, Zverev defeats Tommy Paul in 3 sets. Paul is a fantastic player. He's yet to really prove himself at slams yet. This could be a pretty good stepping stone. Finally, he should be getting to quarterfinals consistently, I think, at slams. He's a very good player, Paul, and I think somebody that is not being looked at quite enough. But I have Zverev over him in 3 sets. Zverev at the moment is just a stronger player at his best than Paul is, and he has shown that in big tournaments he's the guy to beat. Zverev is just Zverev. He's got great backhand, great serve. He does the right things. It's the mental side that gets him. But in the quarterfinals against Paul, who can mentally struggle in the big matches at slams very clearly, I have Zverev getting through. So my semifinals, not a particularly big call for me. I have the top 4. I wasn't even cognizant that I was doing that when I did it, especially because I had that big kind of Djokovic upset that I predicted as well. I thought I was doing some interesting things. Also, I had Fritz over Medvedev, but Fritz is higher ranked than Medvedev, even though Medvedev has been world number 1. But this is my AO final weekend predictions. First semifinal, I've got Jannik Sinner defeats Taylor Fritz in 4 sets. I give Taylor Fritz a set. Guy's been working hard. He even made the 3rd set of the US Open pretty interesting. I believe he was serving for the 3rd set, I'm pretty sure, before he got broken. And it was pretty interesting 2nd set tour in as well. They were both straight set matches, but I don't think Fritz is incapable of winning a set. There will be a lot of pressure on Jannik's shoulders, a lot of expectation, and Fritz will feel like he has nothing to lose. And Fritz has had some interesting matches against Sinner in the past on hard courts. I do think that these conditions favor Sinner a little bit more, but I do think that Fritz will at least have a good showing, but I have Jannik for sure because he just basically does everything a little bit better than Taylor. Semifinal number 2, I've got Carlos Alcaraz defeats Sasha Zverev in 5 sets. At first I was going to do Sinner versus Zverev, just like I think Faison did for the channel as well. But I really thought through this one for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I was going back and forth. I was saying to myself, Alcaraz is a different kind of animal, and I am not underestimating him at all. He's a different kind of animal. It's going to be tough against Zverev in these conditions. Lost to Zverev badly last year. I don't care that he won a set. It was like a straight sets loss, basically. Alcaraz, like I said, very good in 5 sets at slams. I think this would go 5 sets if we see it. And I have Alcaraz getting through because I think he just has something to prove. I think he wants to prove everybody that, hey, I'm the guy. He wants to win the the career slam and get all 4. I think he'll be majorly determined, and yeah, I think that'll push him through. I still think he's a much bigger contender on hard courts than we've seen him. We've barely seen him at his best at the Australian Open. He didn't play 2022 last year against Zverev. He just had it seemed like a very bad day or something. He was not playing at his best. I want to see Alcaraz at his best, more used to these courts in the semifinal against Zverev, vying for revenge, vying for a place in the final, and then we'll see how it goes. And if it gets tight, I back Alcaraz in the big moments more than Sasha Zverev. So my final is Sinner versus Alcaraz, and I've picked them to play in a big final before. They're yet to play in one. In a Masters final, in an ATP Finals final, in an Olympics final, in a Slam final. I hope we get it. If we do, 3, 2, 1. I've got Jannik Sinner defeating Alcaraz in 4 sets. Yeah, I know, it's not an exciting pick to pick Sinner. But I'm not trying to make this exciting. I'm trying to do what I think. This is my best take that I had for how I think the draw is going to play out. And yeah, I think Alcaraz can win a set. He's beaten Sinner the last 3 times they've played, so it's certainly possible that he could win, but Sinner's been unstoppable recently, and I think he's going to carry on the momentum. And I think that maybe even get some confidence off the 6-King Slam. I don't know. I don't think he cares actually about that. But I said their matches that they played have been close. It was 5 sets at Roland Garros. It was 3 sets in Beijing. 3rd set tiebreak. Indian Wells went 3 sets. Conditions that Alcaraz likes way more. I don't know. I have Sinner in 4. I almost said in 3 sets actually, but I think Alcaraz takes a set. He's too good, especially having won the last 3 times, to lose in 3. I think Alcaraz loses in 4 though, especially if he has that 5-setter against Zverev. He will be maybe tired. I don't know. Does Alcaraz get tired? But yeah, I'm backing both these guys, Sinner and Alcaraz. They are the players that split the slams last year. It will be interesting with Fritz. I think he's a contender. I would look at a guy even like Tommy Paul. I don't know. There are interesting names in this draw, but at the end of the day, I do have Sinner and Alcaraz, and I have Sinner getting the win in the final 4 sets. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be here for coverage. It's been Anthony Hirsch. Please don't forget to like. Please don't forget to subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the draw preview. Let's see if Sinner gets it done. If Alcaraz gets to the final, what all happens. If Tomas Mahac does something crazy. Or likely that doesn't happen, but we'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys for more coverage of the Australian Open coming your way.